we just finished watching the first leg of fixtures that we got in the round of 16 of the Champions League. Yes, I mean, football is unpredictable in so many ways, but a lot of the results we saw begs a lot of questions about Premier League teams, and that is what everybody is talking about. We had 6 Premier League teams in the round of 16. Of course, this is still the first leg. Of course, there is still so much to play for in the second leg of the game. But how did none of them manage to get a win? Not even one. 6 Premier League teams, the big boys, the middle table teams, all of them struggled to get a win. Now, it begs a serious question about what is going on with the league. It begs a serious question about a lot of the things that we've been hearing about the Premier League. Before this moment, you hear so many people talk about the Premier League and they attach the word boring to it. People say the Premier League is no longer what it used to be. And this isn't just coming out from the fans or from rivals that just want to make caricature of the league. No, football fans say it, pundits say it, ex-players say it. Even managers are stepping up to make the same statement that they don't enjoy what they see from the Premier League. Now, we've gone to the bigger stage in the Champions League, and the result we saw, a whole lot of them were just unbelievable, uninspiring, and serious questions needs to be asked. So let's go into each of those games. We'll start from the early kickoff from Tuesday. That's the game between Galatasaray and Liverpool. How did Liverpool fail to score? Not even a goal. They couldn't score a goal against Galatasaray. And this is not the first time both sides are coming across each other this season. Remember, they faced each other in the group stage of the Champions League. The same thing happened. Liverpool found it hard to score. Liverpool's backline struggled very massively against Osimhen in that backline. And by the end of the day, they were able to get a win. In the group stages, they called it a scrappy win because that win came through a penalty that people are still saying is a controversial penalty. But here we are in a game where Liverpool are supposed to show that, we can bounce back. They failed to do it. They conceded a goal, and the game ended with a loss for Liverpool. Now, this is a very bad result. But when you consider the performances from every other Premier League team in this same level of the competition, then Liverpool fans will look at this and say, it's not that bad after all. So let's go over to the next game. That's the game between Newcastle and Barcelona. And to be fair to Newcastle, to be fair to them, I think they are one of the Premier League teams that actually had a very good performance. Aside from the results, the performance they had in this game is quite impressive because, first of all, I don't think many people gave them chance to even have this type of performance against the firepower of Barcelona. Newcastle was very dominant in the game. They were also using their physicality to make it very hard for Barcelona to step foot on the ball. And they were able to do it for a whole 90 minutes. In fact, 90 plus minutes. They were leading with a goal, but they just couldn't finalize it with a win. And that is where they messed things up for themselves, because it took the last kick of the ball for Barcelona to win and score a penalty, which got an equalizer for them in that particular game. Now, this is a home game for Newcastle. When they go over to Barcelona to play their away game, you don't know if it's going to have the same impact. You don't know if they are going to have similar performance in it. But based on how they played in this first leg, they could have scored. In fact, they should have scored a lot more goals than just one goal. But their fans are happy because the expectation, when you see Newcastle and Barcelona on a fixture list, the expectation is always for the top dog, being Barcelona, to get the upper hand. Interestingly, both sides still met each other in the group stage of the competition. In the group stages, Barcelona had a very dominant display against Newcastle, but that wasn't the case this weekend. Nonetheless, they still can't take a point is still something. Picking up a draw, not being on the losing side, leaves so much to play for in the next leg of the competition. So Newcastle fans, like I said, they can be proud about this. There is no shame in picking up a draw against Barcelona. What matters most is the next game they are going to have, that return leg. How is it going to be? How are they going to perform? We also saw embarrassing and disgraceful game for Tottenham Hotspur in the same midweek. It was a game against Atletico Madrid, an away game for Tottenham Hotspur, and for some reason their coach decided that, oh, in a very serious game like this, in a very competitive game like this, I'm going to bench my starting goalkeeper, who of course is not the best goalkeeper in the world. There have been a couple of complaints about him, but he decided to throw in a young lad, Kinski, for that particular game. And guess what happened? Conceded 3 goals from them within the first 15 minutes, and he had to be subbed off the game. If you know about football, you know that something like this, it kills morale, it kills careers. It is very embarrassing. It was so embarrassing that even legends and rival fans, take David De Gea, for example, had to send a message to him that, oh, we know how it feels like. Moments like this can completely shift the trajectory of someone's career. But it happened, and it's not just because the goalkeeper is poor. Of course, he made his own mistakes, but the coach too also have his own blame for that particular decision, because he's the one that gave him opportunity to step into the starting lineup. And when he saw that things were not going well, he took him off in that manner. I mean, it's all falling down, it's all crushing down for Tottenham Hotspur. They couldn't get a result in the Champions League, and if you check where they are in the Premier League, you know that they are closer to relegation than any of their fans anticipated. Now, the worst part of it is that they are having this poor run of games, and it doesn't seem like they would be able to turn things around, especially not under this manager that they have now. And their next game is a very serious game against Liverpool. That's going to be the Super Sunday fixture. It's still a game that we'll get to talk about some other time. But this time around, their performance in the Champions League this midweek, it was completely embarrassing. It was disgraceful. Now, they have to go for the second leg of the game with 3 goals deficit. Is there even a chance? Especially for this Tottenham Hotspur. The Tottenham we are seeing this season, they don't have any chance of coming back from a 3 goals disadvantage against the likes of Atletico Madrid. It's just not happening. This is where the road ends for them in this round of the Champions League. Now we'll move over to the game between Leverkusen and Arsenal. I mean, it is an away game for Arsenal. That's always something to have in mind. First of all, it is an away game for them. Secondly, a draw is not the worst result out there. It's not the worst result. But one thing they would really look at and be unimpressed with is how easy it was for Leverkusen to create chances against Arsenal. They were beating their midfield, like they were completely dominating their midfield. They were solid in winning ball back, and they were pressing like mad, like, especially in the first half of the game. Interestingly, the game that was considered by Arsenal happens to be a typical goal that came from corner kick. We know Arsenal, especially this season, they are specialists when it comes to creating chances from corner kick. Unfortunately for them, that same card was used against them by Leverkusen. Nonetheless, they were still able to pick up a win through a penalty that, I mean, Leverkusen, they just showed their inexperience at that particular point, because they were very close to ending the game with a win. But very similar to what we saw in Newcastle's game with Barcelona, their inexperience cost them at that moment, because they committed a foul at a very poor spot. A penalty was given to Arsenal, and that penalty is one that ended up being a controversial penalty, because fans online, you will see a lot of slow motion clips that says this is a penalty, this is not a penalty. And from there, one of the biggest game of the midweek, a game between Real Madrid and Manchester City. Bear in mind that these two sides, they have met each other in the last 5 years in the Champions League. They've met each other a whole lot of times, and the game is always interesting. No matter where they meet each other, even if it's in the group stage, you know it's going to be an interesting game. This time around, though, in fact, both sides are struggling. They struggle with it. If you look at Manchester City, they are second in the league with a whole lot of inconsistency in their game. You look at Real Madrid, they are also second, 4 points behind Barcelona, and they are also quite inconsistent. Inconsistent to the point where they even had to sack their manager at the beginning of the year. That's Alonso. Brought in a replacement who had a good start, but then the inconsistency still comes in every now and then. Now, if you take away the issue of inconsistency, the injury crisis is also there, especially for Real Madrid. Kylian Mbappe was not available for this particular game. Jude Bellingham picked up a serious injury. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and he even had to go through surgery. The odds were seriously in favor of Manchester City. But in that particular game, it ended up being a very embarrassing performance, especially for Manchester City, because in the first half of the game, they conceded 3 goals. All 3 goals came from Valverde. Yes, a hat-trick against Manchester City, which is, I don't think anyone saw it coming. Even if you expected a win on either side, those that expected a win from Manchester City knew that Real Madrid would surely score. Those that expected a win from Real Madrid knew that Manchester City will surely get on the score sheet. But I don't think anyone saw 3-0 demolition of Manchester City. Of course, it goes back to the same thing we are talking about regarding the quality of the Premier League this season. Like, what is going on? What is the issue with all these Premier League teams? Why are they struggling? Why are they facing this amount of struggle in European competition? Now, the last, but not the least, is the game between PSG and the world champions, Chelsea. Bear in mind that we already saw a game between both sides before the beginning of the season, previous summer, where they played in America in the final of the Club World Cup. And in that particular game, that was a high-scoring, high-performing PSG. They were in the best form of their life. But for this particular one, PSG is not at their best currently. Going into the midweek game, nobody was sure of what to expect, because while PSG was not at their best, Chelsea is also not at their best. In fact, the game Chelsea played before going into this game is a game against a championship side. That's Wrexham of Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. That was a very tough game. People expected it to be an easy game for Chelsea, but that wasn't the case, because Wrexham pushed them to extra time, and that was why going into this particular game, nobody was really sure of what to expect. But I'm pretty sure nobody expected a 5-0 domination from PSG against Chelsea. Similar to what we saw in the game with Tottenham Hotspur and Atletico Madrid, Spurs decided to bench their starting goalkeeper. That's the same thing we saw with Chelsea. Sanchez, who, of course, I don't rate him very highly as a goalkeeper. He's not the top 3 goalkeepers in the league. And I know that some Chelsea fans were saying that he's not good enough. Surely, he isn't good enough to be a first choice in Chelsea. But if you are going to make a decision to make changes in that goalkeeping department, especially when you are bringing on a second choice, is it really right to make that decision when you are facing a team like PSG at this point in the Champions League game? That was a very premature decision, and it is a decision that they had to pay for, because PSG completely dominated them, especially in the first half of in the second half of the game. They were able to score a whole lot of goals, and the game ended in favor of PSG. Like I said, 5-2 in favor of PSG. They will be walking into the second half of the game with 3 goals advantage. Now think about it. Out of all the teams we've mentioned in the Premier League, Manchester City will walk into the second leg with 3 goals disadvantage. Tottenham Hotspur, 3 goals disadvantage. Chelsea, 3 goals disadvantage. So again, what is wrong? We have high expectation from them going into European competitions especially. But from where we are standing, honestly, After the second leg of the fixture, don't be surprised if you see that not even a single Premier League teams make it to the next round of the competition. Currently, it looks like Newcastle still have a chance, although their chance is just around 25% chance of making it. Arsenal still have a chance, perhaps 65% chance. You can give Liverpool 30% chance of making it. But outside these three, every other team, they are walking into the second leg of the fixture with a very high disadvantage. Now, which of them do you think will still make it to the next round of the competition? Which of them do you think is going to qualify? And seriously, just think about it. Where did it go wrong for the Premier League? Now, before we wrap it up, anyone that have been paying attention to the channel knows that it has been a while since we put up any content here, but it's about to get real. So if you're coming across us for the very first time, try to stay in touch, connect to the channel, follow us. I will also be putting up live streams, and I'm not sure of how it's going to work out, but I'm about to give it a shot for the very first time. If it works out really well, then it will become something I'll be doing a lot more consistently. The same with the videos I put up. I will try to do a mixture of both long form and short form content. So just stay in touch, give us the support, and we'll keep improving and keep feeding you a lot more consistent and a lot more quality content for your viewing pleasure. So that's it on this one. Thank you.